Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to our session on Rossler AxTraxPro integration with the KONE Elevator Destination Control. My name is Giora. I'm a business engineer at Rossler Security Products, and thank you for joining me on this presentation. In this session, we are going to talk about the integration of the KONE Elevator Control server with Rossler AxTraxPro Access Control Management System. Actually, it is an integration done by Rossler using a web API, the API 500 connectivity suite of KONE via HTTPS. This feature allows the control of the user's access right, the card holder's rights, their access rights to the various elevator floors. This is a kind of elevator control that is also called and referred to as destination control. By the system, we can control and determine who can go to which floor, when, and by which elevator, or by which groups of elevators, or the zone of elevators. For that, we are using groups of floors access rights and timetables, groups of access rights and timetables that are already defined in the KONE server. We retrieve this data to the AxTraxPro server in order to configure in the AxTraxPro the user's elevator access rights. In fact, we synchronize the AxTraxPro server with the KONE server data, and with that retrieved information of various groups of access rights, time zones, and users categories, which are already defined in the KONE server, with this information, we can build the user's elevator access rights in the AxTraxPro. And after we build in the AxTraxPro the user's elevator access rights and configure his credentials in the AxTraxPro, we send all this to the KONE server to be updated. Basically, the elevator control feature requires a valid license. It is an annual license that must be activated and must have an expiry date for the support and maintenance services. The license is renewed annually, every year, and it can't be issued without an end date. Otherwise, KONE Elevator Control would not have support and maintenance services, as this is a KONE requirement. Of course, the customer can also purchase and buy a license package for a few years, for several years, and not only for 1 year. And obviously, not to forget to have the right version of AxTraxPro software. This feature requires AxTraxPro version 28.0.2.8 or higher. First of all, we have to connect the AxTraxPro server to the KONE server. We have to connect to the KONE server in order to retrieve all the needed information. If we take a look at the GUI of the new version of the AxTraxPro system, we can see that a new section, a new branch was added in the preview called Elevator Control. Here you can see it here, Elevator Control. This new Elevator Control branch or tab brings the option to connect to the KONE server and retrieve data and information from the KONE server. By clicking the Edit button in the table view, here this is the Edit button in the table view. By clicking this Edit button, a window with the KONE logo will be opened, a window called Elevator Configuration. And in the General section of the Elevator Configuration screen, we select first the model. We select first the model. We select the required model here. We enter a name and a description for the server. And we select the enable checkbox. And then in the connection details section, we enter the KONE Elevator Control Server IP address or URL, and then we enter the user's credentials, meaning username and passwords to access the KONE Elevator Control Server. And by clicking the connect button here, we connect to the KONE server and retrieve all the elevator control data from the KONE server. So we will press now the connect button here. And now we can see all the data that was retrieved from the KONE Access server. We can see here 6 tabs of information and data that we got from the KONE server. We can see here the access domains tab, the access rights tab, time zones, user categories, home floors, and call types. If you open each tab, we will see groups of domains and groups of access rights, timetables, categories of users, a list of floors that can be selected as the home floor of a user, and types of call. All these groups and categories are already defined in the KONE server, and we will use them later on for our AxTraxPro users. We don't change anything here with that retrieved data. We will use all these groups later on when we build in the AxTraxPro the user's elevator access rights. For example, we can see here the access domain tab here, which is open now here. This tab, the access domain tab, presents groups of elevators in different zones and different areas and domains in the building, according to which the building can also be divided. In fact, access domain is a KONE predefined group containing a collection of elevators in a single lobby or in a specific zone, area, or domain. The access domain actually determines to which elevators the user is allowed. That user which is assigned to that specific access domain. The names that appear here are group 1, group 2, mean nothing and are just for example and demonstration and are not real-life names as we connected to the KONE test and demo server. I don't know, but maybe it is better to have for demonstration names like domain 1, domain 2, or zone 1, zone 2, etc., which are much more clear and better than group 1, group 2, which tell nothing and can be a little confusing. Real-life names of access domains can be something like high zone, low zone, middle low zone, etc., etc. Okay, so after we understood what access domain is, let's see the access rights tab. So we will click the access rights tab. And here we see the contents of the access rights tab. This tab presents access rights groups. The access rights groups are just like our Rossler access groups in the AxTrax system. Those access groups in Rossler that contain doors that are allowed for the related assigned user. In the same way, we have here in KONE access rights groups that contain floor numbers that are allowed for the related assigned user. And in buildings which host different companies at different floors, these access rights groups may become company dependent, as each company may sit on different floors. So the name of the company may sometimes appear and be part of the access rights group's name. And also here, the names we see in the slide mean nothing and are just for example and demonstration, and are not real-life names as we connect it to the KONE test and demo server. Real-life name A real-life name for an access rights group can be something like Rosler 24 to 26. It means that Rosler is the name of the company, and 24 to 26 are the floor numbers. Okay, so now we will move on to the next tab, the time zones tab. We will press the time zones tab. So here we see the time zones and all its, the time zone tab and all its contents. Here we can see timetables like Monday to Friday from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. to be used when building the user's elevator access rights profile. With the timetables, we determine when and at what time intervals the user is allowed access to certain floors which are part of his access rights group. Time zones and timetables are a bunch of periods within a week. Elevator access rights can be said to behave differently for each time zone. As we said, we use time zones to set up the time intervals in which elevator access is allowed according to a specific group of floors access rights. And if we will go on now to the users category tab, and we will press the users category tabs, we can see now here 2 user categories to select for the users. We give each user a category. The user category is part of the data and definitions which we get from the KONE server. The user category is defined on the KONE server. It is like we have in the AxTrax the departments. In the AxTrax system, the users sit under different departments. In the same way, also here, in the KONE server, the users sit under different user categories. But not always the KONE server defines and creates user categories. Sometimes it doesn't. What can make, in such a case, this tab to be empty or not available. But if the KONE server does divide users into different categories, then these categories will be displayed here, and we will have to select each user his category. We will have to select each user his category when we define and create his elevator profile in the AxTraxPro system. And now let's press the On Flows tab. Here we can see the contents of the Home Flow tab. As a matter of fact, indeed, it is just a list of floors. It is just a list of floors in the building. As we said, when we define a user in the system, we can assign him elevator floors access rights using the floors access rights groups defined in the system. But it is not like this with all the users. We don't have to assign a bunch or an array of access rights and access groups to every user. Some users will be assigned with home floor only. One single floor that is allowed. One single floor considered to be his home floor. And then every time this user passes his card at the elevator reader, the call for the elevator will be to that specific floor only. It will not be allowed to other floors. So as the home floor of a user can be theoretically any one of the floors in the building, then in this tab, the home floor tab, apparently all the floors in the building may appear. And the last tab in the elevator configuration screen is the call types tab here. The call types tab, so we will press it. And here we can see what the call types tab brings us. We can see here 5 call types that can be assigned to a user when we define a user in the system. When we define a user in the system, the call type we select for him becomes part of his user's properties. Every time the user passes his card at the elevator reader, At the elevator terminal, the behavior of the call for the elevator and its characteristics would be according to the call type definition assigned to this specific user. For every call type, there is a different behavior and different characteristics. And every site, every building can have different call types. All the various call types are KONE definitions and can be found in the KONE manual. We can see in this screen the following call types. First, we can see empty car, meaning that every time this specific user calls for an elevator, the elevator will arrive empty. Then we have handicap here, handicap. It means that every time this specific user calls for an elevator, when the elevator arrives, the elevator doors will open for an extended period of time. Then we have normal, which is no special behavior, just normal operation, normal behavior. And then we have priority. It means that every time this specific user calls for an elevator, he has priority over other users. And an elevator will be directed to him first. And last, we have the space allocation. Every time this specific user calls for an elevator, a white compartment elevator will be invited. All this information that we just saw in these 6 tabs of the elevator configuration screen, we saw access domains, access rights, time zones, home floors, user categories, and call types are all retrieved from the KONE Elevator Control server. It is all defined already in the KONE server, and from our point of view, the AxTraxPro point of view, it is permanent information that we cannot change. Even in the KONE server, it is not changed frequently. Only once a tenant or a company leaves the building. Then there is a real reason for a change. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you for being with me. If you would like to go on and see how to set up and define the user's elevator access rights in the AxTraxPro, in the user's profile screen, meaning in the user's properties screen of the AxTraxPro, then you are invited to refer to and watch our second part of the KONE integration webinar, the session of defining and setting users' elevator access rights in the AxTraxPro. And in the meantime, you can see here my contact information, my email, and my cell phone. If there is any question about what we have covered so far or any information needed, you are more than welcome to contact me by mail or by phone. So see you then in our next session. And I wish you a great day. Bye. Bye, everyone.